The roots of my story began almost 60 years ago. My parents were very sociable people, so they often hosted parties at our home. Aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors, and family friends would be invited. As children, we were not allowed to be at these parties. We were banished to our rooms upstairs. But as most kids do, we would sneak downstairs and try to listen to the grown-up conversations. My mother would be busy hosting the ladies in the living room, and I remember this one aunt of mine would often get a little toasty and we would overhear her making snide comments directed at my mom. To my young mind, they were just riddles or half stories, but to my mom, they seemed to be paralyzing. I never understood what was happening in the moment, but growing up, I always wondered about my mom's stoic reaction in those moments. My dad would be entertaining the men in the front room, what we called the good room, the room where we were never allowed to hang out in. We made sure he did not catch us sneaking around the party, or there would be a whooping. My dad was the authoritarian of our home. Growing up, I was really scared of my dad. I didn't think he liked me very much. Don't get me wrong. He took good care of me and all my siblings. He was a strong provider. But whenever he would punish or whoop us, it always seemed that I would get it worse than my siblings. Looking back, it didn't seem fair. My siblings would get away with anything, and I always got the blame and the punishment that came with it. Most of my childhood, I avoided being in his presence. When he came home from work, I would go upstairs to my room and not come downstairs until he went to sleep. Alone in my room, I would read for hours or listen to the radio. The local radio stations became my companions. I think I know every song played in the late 70s and early 80s. He ran our family business, which was a very successful local tavern. One day driving home from work, he got stopped. Because of his DUI, he had to attend several weeks of classes to keep his license. He was required to bring someone with him. Guess who got chosen to go? Me. I went with him for 6 weeks and sat there listening to the class. Eventually, it was my dad's turn to tell the story of how his drinking landed him there. As he spoke and looked at me listening to his story, something within him broke. I had never seen my dad so vulnerable. In fact, till then, I rarely interacted with my dad at all. Around this time, I had gotten my driver's permit. The only driving experience I could get was when my friends let me test drive their cars. Early one Saturday morning, my dad came to my bedroom, woke me up, and told me to get dressed. It shocked and scared me, because this was a man that only talked to me when he was yelling at me about something I did wrong. I woke my sister up and I told her I didn't want to go. In my mind, as crazy as it sounds, I thought I was a goner. I'm thinking, this is it. He's gonna kill me. I did what I was told and got in the car. We drove for a while, making very small talk. He pulled into a parking lot near the beach on the peninsula and stopped the car. At this point, I knew I was gonna die, and he was going to throw me in the lake. He got out and walked around to my side of the truck. When he opened the door, he told me, move over and get in the driver's seat and start the engine. He began telling me about the mechanics of the truck. Then he said, start driving. That day, my dad took me for my first driving lesson. We would repeat this every Saturday for the next few weeks until he thought I was ready to go take my driving test. I took the test and failed. During the dreaded three-point turn, I hit the guardrail. But because I failed, every Sunday we would go to the family tavern, and he made me do three-point turns for what I thought were hours. I nailed the test, and I am proud to say I am a fantastic driver, and I can hit a three-point turn at the drop of a hat. Our relationship really changed after that. He became more engaged in my school extracurricular activities. He insisted that I go to college. He taught me all about cars, said he wanted me to know so I wouldn't have to depend on a man. We were building a mutually loving relationship. I grew less afraid to interact with him. It was as if he was now seeing me as a daughter he could talk to, instead of the child that he never understood. Well, I grew up and met a man who whisked me away from my hometown. When I came home to visit with my husband and children, I wouldn't take them to visit with him. At this point, my parents were divorced, and my dad was struggling with addiction. I knew it broke his heart, but I didn't want to expose my children to his lifestyle. After a few years went by, I wrote my dad a letter. I apologized for my behavior, told him that I loved him and that he was my dad. We spoke on the phone often. He would call just to say, "Hey, baby." I loved receiving those calls. My dad died December 24th, 2019. He was in the hospital for respiratory and heart failure. I was sitting next to him when he took his last breath. It took me years to figure out who I am and where I belong. But I never forgot those uncomfortable moments my aunt made to my comments my aunt made to my mother and how strangely she reacted. Whispers circulated around my family like a tornado in the Midwest. Mom and I remained close through the years and still are to this day. But there were too many unanswered questions that my now adult brain couldn't answer. Why did my aunt torment her at every family gathering? Why did Dad always treat me like I was the problem? Why did I seem to never fit in with everyone? Tired of all the unanswered questions, and rumors that were now surfacing, I ordered an Ancestry DNA kit. My sister was with me when I opened up the results. It was no surprise that she was my strongest match. But there were definitely some surprises as we continued to read the DNA results. My strongest match, my second strongest match, was a dude I had never heard of before. He was much younger than me and had a Polish name. Sit with that one. I did. My sister started looking up people on Facebook, and it became clear to me that she knew more about the family secret than she was letting on. Turns out my dad was not my biological dad. I found out I had two sisters and a brother. Turns out that close match was the son of the brother I didn't know I had. Since that time, I've been on a journey of discovery, meeting siblings, nieces, nephews, grands, learning about this family. I noticed that this bunch of strangers have the same mannerisms, likes, dislikes, personality, and quirks. Growing up, I always felt like the oddball in my family. I was different. Now, it all makes sense to me. I smile because the people in this family, they make me make sense. This information never changed how I felt about my dad. I loved him until his last breath. As I reflected on my life and our ups and downs, I'm sad for him because I suspect, on some level, he knew about my parentage, yet in his own way chose to love and raise me as his child, never saying anything to me. Yes, we had our challenges, but he was there. I have struggled with how to share this with my entire family, worried that it might affect our relationship. Tired of the whispers and secrets, I needed to speak my truth out loud and proud. My story shaped me. My story makes me make sense.